Section 8.6 has to do with the slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is a shortcut way of how to graph an equation without plugging in points or without finding the x and the y intercept. So the slope-intercept form of a linear equation, the form is y is equal to mx plus b, where b is the y-intercept, and it tells you where the line crosses the y-axis. So this is your y-intercept. And the m, this part right here, is your slope, which tells you the rise and the run of the line. So this equation is in the right form. I have y by itself. I have a number in front of my x, and then I have a number at the end that doesn't have an x with it. So if they were asked me what the y-intercept of this particular equation is, it's going to be -7. You can add the opposite of the second number there. The slope would be this number that's right here in front of the x, so the slope is 3/5. So when you have an equation that's in slope-intercept form, you should be able to recognize the y-intercept and the slope. So let's practice this, okay? This equation is in y equals mx plus b form. So your y-intercept on this equation would be 3, and your slope would be 1/2, the number that's in front of your x. On this one, your y-intercept would be 6, and your slope would be 8. Sometimes the equations are not in the correct form, so you have to put them in the correct form before you can figure out what the slope and the y-intercept is. The correct form, you need to get the y by itself. So you're solving for the y, so you're using simple algebra, that if something is added, the way you get rid of it is you add a negative of it or you subtract it. So I want to take this 5x over to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a -5x to both sides. Now, you'll recall that when we were rearranging problems before, I suggested that you always put the x value first. And this is why. Because when we have y equals mx plus b, notice how the x comes first. So now this right here is in the correct form, and I can tell you that the y-intercept is equal to 3, and I can tell you that the slope is equal to -5, or we can call it -5/1, because we kind of want it in a fraction form, because eventually we're going to use this to graph it. Okay, this is another one that we need to get solved in the y equals mx plus b form. So I want the y by itself, so I'm going to add the 4x first because it's farther away from the y. So I'm going to have a 5y left on one side. Remember, I'm going to put the 4x first plus a -10, but I still have to get rid of that 5, so I have to divide both sides by 5. And that's going to give me a y equals 4/5 x plus -2. So the y-intercept is -2, and the slope is 4/5. So if you have the equation in y-intercept form, you should be able to tell me the y-intercept and the slope. So the biggest way that we use this is we use this to do, it's like a shortcut in graphing. Like I said, no longer do we have to do a table or do we have to do the x and the y-intercept. But we can look at this equation, which this equation is already in y equals mx plus b form. So I know the y-intercept is -4, and I know the slope is -1/2. So the very first thing I do is I find where on the y-axis I have a -4, and it's down here, because this is where my line is going to cross the y-axis. That's the y-intercept. From that point, this is my rise, and this is my run. Now, if my rise is negative, that means I'm going to go down 1. My run is positive, so I'm going to go to the right 1, because going to the right is positive, going up is positive, going down is negative, and going to the left is negative. So I'm going to go from this point, from the y-intercept, I'm going to go down 1 and to the right 2, and I'm going to put another dot, and I'm going to draw a line through it. This is the line that's represented by that equation. All right, let's do another one. All right, notice that this is not in the correct form. So the very first thing I have to do is I have to solve for the y. So I'm going to add a -3x to both sides. So I have y is equal to -3x plus 9. My y-intercept is 9. So that's where it crosses the y-axis. So I'm going to put a dot right there at the 9. My slope is -3, but I want to make it into a fraction, so I'm going to say -3/1. Now, truthfully, it doesn't matter if the negative is on the 3 or if it's on the 1, but it can't be on both and have it still be a negative, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we're going to treat it on the -3, so we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, and to the right 1. Remember, this is rise, this is run. So this tells you how far up and down you go. This tells you right and left how far you go. Now, if I had treated this as +3 over -1, it's going to be the exact same line. But this time I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'll go to the left -1, because the negative is on the 1. Well, you see it graphs the exact same line. Okay. All right, one more. Okay, y-intercept is 1. Slope is 1/4. So I'm going to put my dot on my 1 where it falls on the y-axis. And the rise is 1, the run is 4. So I go up 1 and over to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I draw the line through those two. You can see that this is way easier than making a table or even finding the x and the y intercept. All right. This one is not in the right form, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add -3x to the right. So I have y is equal to -3x plus 2. The y-intercept is 2. The slope is -3 or -3/1. So I'm going to go up 2 and put a dot. Then I'm going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3, and over to the right 1. And draw a line through it. All right, your homework on this is page 413 through 31 odd.